travel time cost diminished greatly in the 18th, 19th centuries. By the beginning of the 20th century, it cost my father $30 to come to America in a rust bucket, and in order to get to the ship, he had to hitchhike from Russia to Bremen, Germany. And thank God that he did. And why America? Why? For some of us, for some of the immigrants, education was a primary goal. Climate was another. But the main goal was freedom, lack of persecution, lack of abuse, lack of bullying, lack of oppression, lack of ethnic cleansing, and all that. And yet, when they arrived, mostly in New York, as they got off the ship in Ellis Island, they suddenly found that they were no longer immigrants. They were now called WAPs. That stood for without papers, for Italians. Dagos, Ivies, dirty lace Irish, supers, and by the way, that was the Irish again. These were the people that, because of the potato famine in Ireland, were given a choice by their English landlords, either soup or starve. And a lot of them took the dare and made out for America. Kites, dirty Jews, etc. And in spite of these appellations, they rode immediately home and began saving whatever they could as junk dealers, garbage collectors, bricklayers, any type of job that Americans didn't want to do. And sending the money home to bring the rest of the family where they could be together again. In spite of all that, they wanted to come to America because of that little old lady standing there in the middle of the day with that torch forever burning on one arm and the Declaration of Independence, a tablet on the other, and at her foot, at the base, the famous poem of Emma Lazarus, "Send me your poor," etc. Somehow or other, they made it. Slowly but surely, that salad bowl that was American began turning into a melting pot. Before long, it was understood you didn't call people names like that. They were fellow Americans. Now, when the Pilgrims came, I don't know what the Indians called them, but it must have been plenty tough on them as well. And yet America was chosen by all. But don't forget, the Pilgrims are not the first people here either. We had the Norse, we had the Vikings, we had them all. Today, at this very moment, while I speak to you, our country is suffering. We become incestuous. We try to bar immigration. And yet, when I look at this audience, which is just a tiny microcosm of what America is, we find that we're incestuous. And when it comes to our entrepreneurship, when it comes to our religion, when it comes to our working habits, when it comes to everything that I can think of. And then we do, what do we say? We blame our politicians, our bureaucrats, and guess who voted for them? You and I. We talk all types of stimuli to stimulate, invigorate our economy. We gamble with trillions of dollars, and we do not have to do this to bring back our country to where it was. But as Winston Churchill stated, there is always hope for America, because after exhausting every type of formula for a problem, they always seem to stumble on the right one. And you and I know for a long time what the right one is. It has been staring us in the face for maybe the last 50 years. And the right one is the people that are sitting right here in this audience, multiplied by thousands and thousands of times. The right one is immigration. I'm not talking full-fledged immigration. I'm not saying go ahead and open your borders wide in the Southwest, but I am saying that we need an intelligent, democratic form of immigration for this country. We can't wait any longer. Look what we're doing. We give these people who finally let in a great education. And then we tell them, go home. We don't want you. Big mistake. If you go home, they start successful enterprises, and then they send letters back here to get their roommate or their girlfriend or whatever to come back across our borders and join them in a successful enterprise. There is no concerted effort to keep some of these intellectuals. That has to stop as quickly as possible and can be done through scholarships, future jobs, or whatever it takes. But it doesn't take trillions of dollars. In the global economy, the countries that attract the world's best, brightest, and hardest working, those are the countries that will succeed. Those who refuse their amendment will not. We in America have long been doing this, and we would never become a global power, superpower, without opening our door to immigrants. After all, not meaning to insult anybody of the American Indian message, if we didn't have immigrants, probably all of us would now be sleeping or living in teepees. Smart, self-motivated, hungry, ambitious immigrants spur the innovation and create the jobs. Our economy needs to thrive. In 1995 and 2005, 25% of all high-tech startups in this country had at least one immigrant as a founder. 1 out of every 4. And today, those particular companies employ 456,000 people. When Ted Kennedy and John McCain worked tirelessly to pass legislation called the DREAM Act, which would have generated legal status to the children of immigrants who enroll in college or the military, they failed. And so we have come to the point in Washington, D.C., that bipartisan immigration reform is impossible. I can't bring myself to even think that that is where we are. This is something we have to push very hard on our representatives, whether you're Democrats or Republicans or Tea Parties or whatever, and to make sure that this dream of ours doesn't become a nightmare eventually.